The sun was barely rising when the auctioneer's hammer came down, echoing across the dusty lot like a shot that sealed my fate. In that moment, I didn't know I had just stepped onto a battlefield I couldn't see yet. All I knew was that the ranch, broken, beaten, abandoned, was finally mine. I had spent months looking for a place where I could start over. A place without noise, without drama, without the shadows of the past tugging at my ankles. This ranch felt like that place. A clean slate wrapped in cracked fences and forgotten history. But the world has a strange way of testing a man the moment he thinks peace is finally on the horizon. By noon, I was standing at the entrance of the long dirt driveway, dust swirling around my boots as the movers unloaded the last of my boxes. The air was dry, the land stretched endlessly, and the silence felt almost too heavy, like the earth itself was holding its breath. I walked toward the old barn, its roof half collapsed, its doors hanging loose. Inside, beams of sunlight filtered through broken planks, catching dust in the air like it was frozen in time. It wasn't much, but it was something I could build back with my own hands. I kept telling myself this property was a blessing, a chance, a new beginning. But every blessing has a shadow. A few hours later, as I walked the perimeter fence, I noticed something odd near the far corner of the land, a patch of ground darker than the rest, like it had been dug up and refilled recently. I didn't think much of it at the time. Maybe the previous owner tried to plant something. Maybe an old septic line. Maybe nothing. The property was massive, and secrets get buried on land this old. I shrugged it off, grabbed my tools, and decided to start repairing the gate leading onto the highway. That's when I noticed them. 3 black SUVs slicing up the dirt road in a straight line toward me, each kicking up a tail of dust. At first I thought maybe the auction office had messed up my paperwork. Maybe someone was here to check the deed. But the closer they came, the more wrong it felt. The vehicles didn't slow down until they were yards away. Doors opened fast. Men stepped out with their hands near their belts, federal agents, judging by the badges glinting in the sun. For a second, the world went still. My pulse hammered in my throat. One of them shouted, "Sir, hands where we can see them. Step away from the gate." I froze. My hands lifted on instinct. What's going on? This is my property. We're where? The lead agent interrupted, circling toward me. And that's exactly why we're here. A cold weight settled in my stomach. This wasn't a misunderstanding. They knew. They expected me. Within minutes I was surrounded, 7 agents, all of them scanning the property like they were expecting someone to take a shot at them. One walked the fence line. Another checked the barn. 2 more headed toward the house, without even asking permission. I felt like a trespasser on my own land. Someone want to explain this? I asked, trying to keep my voice from shaking. The lead agent stared at me, eyes hidden behind dark glasses. This ranch was under federal surveillance for 2 years, he said. The previous owner was involved in a large-scale operation we're investigating. We have reason to believe that evidence connected to that investigation is still somewhere on this property. My mouth went dry. Evidence? What kind? He didn't answer. Instead, he pointed toward the far end of the property. We'll need you to stay here while we search. Don't interfere. Search? You need a warrant. He pulled a folded document from his vest and held it up. We have one. Just like that, my fresh start began to unravel. For hours I stood there in the heat, watching strangers comb through land I hadn't even had time to understand yet. They brought metal detectors, dogs, scanning equipment. At one point the dogs started barking toward the barn, and my heart pounded so hard I felt dizzy. I had no idea what these men were looking for, but the seriousness in their movements told me it wasn't something small. Agents entered the barn with flashlights, their beams slicing through the dust. 30 minutes passed, then 40, then an hour. Every minute felt heavier than the last. My imagination ran wild. What had the last owner hidden? Drugs? Weapons? Something worse? The lead agent finally walked back toward me. His expression had shifted, not relief, not anger, something in between. We found something, he said quietly. I felt the ground tilt beneath me. What does that mean for me? That depends, he replied. We need to know if you've discovered anything since purchasing the property." "I didn't even have time to unpack a single box," I said. "I don't know anything about what happened here." He studied my face, searching for a lie. I didn't blink. Minutes later, 2 agents emerged from the barn carrying a sealed black container the size of a toolbox. It looked heavy. 2 grown men strained to keep it steady. The moment I saw that container, I knew whatever was inside wasn't meant to be found by anyone. And it definitely wasn't meant for me. They loaded it into one of the SUVs. I took a breath. "Can someone please explain what that is?" The lead agent hesitated, then shook his head. "Classified." That single word made my skin crawl. Before I could ask anything else, another agent jogged over. "Sir, we found another disturbance in the ground. South fence line." The lead agent's jaw tightened. "Secure the perimeter. No one leaves." My heart raced. "Hey, I didn't sign up for this. I just bought a ranch. That's it." He turned back to me. "Whether you intended to or not, you now own a crime scene." Those words hit me harder than any punch. I wanted to scream. I wanted to demand answers. Instead, I stood there helplessly as they roped off half my land like I was living in the middle of an ongoing investigation. The sun began to set. The dogs barked again. The agents moved faster, urgency buzzing in the air like electricity. Then I heard someone shout, "We've got it." The lead agent sprinted toward the sound, and although they ordered me to stay put, I couldn't stop watching. 2 agents were kneeling in the dirt next to a freshly dug hole, exactly where I saw that strange patch of ground earlier. They lifted out another container, larger than the first and covered in mud. Whatever was inside was no ordinary evidence. Their faces pale, their voices tense. It felt like they had unearthed something that wasn't meant to see daylight. When the lead agent returned, his expression had hardened into steel. "Sir, because of the nature of the items recovered, we need to escort you off the property until the site is cleared." "My own property," I whispered. He didn't flinch. "For your safety." The irony stabbed deep. My dream of peace had turned into a nightmare before I even spent one night under that roof. I got into my truck, hands trembling as I watched them swarm over land that was supposed to be my escape. As I drove away, the flashing blue lights behind me painted the dirt road like a path leading away from something far darker than I could imagine. Hours later, I sat in a cheap motel room, staring at the wall, replaying every moment, every thump of boots on my land, every bark of the dogs, every cold, clipped answer from men who weren't allowed to tell me the truth. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Hello." A low voice replied. "Mr. Carter? This is Agent Wilson." My spine straightened. Did something happen? A pause. The kind of pause that warns you before the blow lands. "You need to come to our field office in the morning. We have questions about the property and any interactions you might have had with the previous owner." "I never met him," I said. "Not once." "Still," he said, "it's important." There was another pause. Then his tone shifted into something colder. "And Mr. Carter, until further notice, do not attempt to return to the ranch." "Why not?" I asked, heart pounding. He exhaled sharply. "Because there may be more on that land than we initially believed." The call ended. Silence filled the room, heavy and suffocating. My new beginning wasn't a beginning at all. It was a doorway, one I had stepped through without knowing what waited on the other side. And now, no matter how far I drove, no matter how much I wanted to forget, the truth was carved into my future like a scar. I didn't just buy a ranch. I bought the secrets buried beneath it. And those secrets had finally woken up.